When it comes to video conferencing, especially on a laptop, the last thing you're probably thinking about is the camera. I mean, it's right there. It's built into your laptop, and every application seems to recognize it without you having to do a thing. If you're traveling, or even if you're just away from your office for a bit, the convenience of having a camera always with you is pretty hard to beat. But if your computer doesn't travel around a bunch, and if you typically video conference from the same place all the time, it might be worth spending just a little bit of effort optimizing for video quality rather than convenience. One of the easiest and most effective things that you can do is tweak your camera placement, getting your camera as close to eye level as you can. This, of course, might be easier said than done when your camera is literally attached to your laptop. I mean, if your laptop is sitting on the table where it's comfortable to type on, chances are your camera angle is a little bit too low and certainly not at the most flattering of angles. I like calling this nostril vision. Yeah. So if you can raise your laptop screen up to something a little bit closer to eye level, it'll be easier on your neck. Since your camera is right there, you'll have a more flattering camera angle as well. Now, I typically stack a pile of books under my laptop to experiment and figure out what the best height seems to be. You can also buy an inexpensive adjustable laptop stand if you want something a bit more permanent. Now, once you've solved that problem, it means you have time to deal with your new problem. It's probably going to be pretty awkward typing on your laptop when the screen and camera are at the right height for video conferencing. So you could invest in an external keyboard and a mouse or a trackpad, or you could leave your laptop on the desk and invest in a new external camera. It's probably easiest to choose a camera that matches the type of built-in ports you have on your laptop. So, for example, the most popular type of connector these days is USB-A. It's square, and so while you can't mess it up, it means that every time you try to plug something in, it'll take 3 tries. You'll try to plug it in one way and it won't fit, and so then you'll flip it over the other way and it still won't fit, and so then you'll flip it over the way it was originally and this time it'll fit. Go figure. Now, more modern laptops might have USB-C ports instead of USB-A. USB-C connectors are rounded on the ends instead of square, and this way you can kind of plug them in either direction. USB-C is maybe a little less common, so be sure to read the fine print on the camera before you make a purchase. Now, of course, you can dongle your way out of most situations these days. I use this dongle all the time. It's got a USB-C port on the end that connects to my laptop, and then on the other end, it's got a USB-C port, you can tell because it's rounded, and a USB-A port because it's square, and an HDMI port. You can tell HDMI because that's probably what your TV uses. They're kind of pyramid shaped, more triangle than square. So this dongle gives me a ton of flexibility, and it allows me to choose the camera I want rather than the connector I need. And speaking of the camera I want, here's what I actually use for all of my video conferencing. An actual camera, with like a removable glass lens. This is a digital mirrorless camera that has an HDMI output on the side. Now, if you look at the size of this camera and this lens compared to the size of a PC grade camera, it should be pretty clear to you that you're trading size and portability and convenience for quality. Now, Here's a little pro tip. If someone is using a computer grade camera for their video conferencing, the easiest way to tell is that everything will be equally in focus. The person and everything in the background, everything all together. Now, if they're using an actual camera with a removable glass lens, you should be able to notice how they're in focus while their background has a nice faded blur to it. This is called the bokeh effect. Look for the bokeh effect the next time you're watching a movie or your favorite TV show. Notice how the trees in the background are blurry while the main characters are sharply in focus. Then, switch to a news broadcast and chances are good that everything will be in crisp, clean focus. The foreground and the background and basically everything in the frame. So, it's not that one is necessarily better than the other, but now that you know about the bokeh effect, you can decide which look you like and choose appropriately. So, if you spend a lot of time video conferencing these days, it might be worth it to make your setup a bit more video friendly. Do what you can to avoid nostril vision and get your camera up at eye level. Your neck will thank you, trust me. If you decide to invest in an external camera, you can choose something that's a plug and play as long as it matches the type of port you have on your laptop, whether it's USB-A or USB-C or maybe even HDMI. And if you do step up to a camera with a proper removable glass lens, I guarantee you that your friends will notice the bokeh effect, even if they don't know what it's called. But they'll notice. And you'll be rewarded for the time and energy you invested in optimizing for video quality instead of convenience.